just so happens to be Sophie Cunningham. Talk about Arby's. She is now on the Arby's payroll.
Just when you thought the WNBA was finally getting its moment in the spotlight, Nike drops a $1 billion bombshell, and nobody saw it coming. At the center of it all, Sophie Cunningham, who just signed a jaw-dropping branding deal with Arby's.
She's gone viral over Hot Girls Eat Arby's. Yeah, she was wearing this outfit, this arrangement.
While fans were laughing at her Hot Girls Eat Arby's shirt, Nike was quietly rewriting the rules of women's sports marketing behind closed doors. What does this secret mega deal mean for the league, for players, and for the brands racing to cash in? Join us as we uncover more. Sophie Cunningham, the Fever, and the Arby's Storm. Sophie Cunningham isn't your typical professional basketball player. Drafted into the WNBA in 2019, she's always played with fire, earning a reputation for her gritty defense, long-range shooting, and fiery leadership. But her rise hasn't been linear. From a standout career at Mizzou to carving out a real name for herself in the league, Cunningham did what many can't. She turned role-player minutes into nationwide attention. And not just through basketball. In 2024, Cunningham made the surprise move from the Phoenix Mercury to the Indiana Fever, a franchise that was already basking in the Caitlin Clark spotlight. With Clark drawing sellout crowds, TV deals swelling, and fan engagement through the roof, Indiana became the most-watched team in the WNBA. It gets interesting. The Fever weren't just a team anymore, they were a brand, a movement, a media magnet. Sophie's signing added spice to an already electric roster and gave her the perfect platform to level up. But it wasn't only her performance on the court that lit up the timeline. Sophie Cunningham had already begun crafting something few athletes in the WNBA had truly mastered: cultural influence. Unlike many stars who keep their profiles strictly polished or game-focused, Cunningham knew how to speak directly to her base. Her social media presence was unfiltered, southern chic, and deeply relatable. Whether posting behind-the-scenes shots from training, unapologetic gym selfies, or sharing moments of candid humor, Sophie tapped into something real. By mid-2025, her follower count had ballooned into 6 figures, and her posts regularly drove viral moments, not through scandals, but sheer charisma and internet savviness. She was the type of athlete brands were scrambling to understand. Part sports figure, part lifestyle icon, and all business. Before a high-stakes matchup against the Las Vegas Aces, Cunningham arrived at Gainbridge Fieldhouse wearing an oversized white tee with bold red letters, "Hot Girls Eat Arby's." Cameras caught it. Fans snapped pics. And within hours, TikTok and Instagram had latched onto it. The moment wasn't staged, but it was perfect. In a WNBA climate where visibility, virality, and personality mean everything, that shirt became an instant meme. Fans laughed, reposted, and within days, custom tees flooded Etsy. Arby's saw the trend and reacted fast. Within 48 hours, the fast food chain officially partnered with Sophie Cunningham, turning a viral gag into a nationwide campaign. Billboards, pop-up sandwich shops outside arenas, a new spicy slider dubbed the Sophie Sizzler. It was unlike anything the WNBA had seen before. The collaboration was more than a stunt. It was a case study in how a smart athlete with the right brand instincts could rewrite the sponsorship playbook. Cunningham wasn't just endorsing a product, she was shaping the moment. It brought Arby's a younger demographic, and it brought Sophie something far more valuable than fast food money: leverage. Because behind the laughs and sliders, something else was happening, something far bigger. Keep watching to find out what it was. Nike, which has long positioned itself as the premier sponsor of elite women athletes, was watching. The brand had already made waves in the WNBA space, most recently with a high-profile deal inked by Caitlin Clark, reportedly one of the most lucrative individual contracts in the history of women's sports endorsements. Clark's deal was widely covered. Press releases, interviews, even a signature shoe launch in development. But not every Nike deal came with fanfare. Behind the scenes, the company had been shifting its strategy with the WNBA. No longer content to wait for traditional media to catch up, Nike had begun backing bold personalities, ones that could trigger internet explosions, sell out arenas, and influence consumer culture. Cunningham, smart, outspoken, and now viral, fit the mold perfectly. And her unconventional rise, especially amid the Arby's chaos, gave Nike something they couldn't buy through traditional scouting: organic impact. Still, what happened next caught even insiders by surprise. Because while fans were busy debating whether Sophie had just revolutionized athlete branding, whispers started circulating on message boards, in sneaker forums, among agents and PR insiders. A secret was building, something much bigger than a shirt or a sandwich. If Sophie's Arby stunt was the spark, what came after was a wildfire. Behind closed doors, Nike had been working on something colossal, something that would reframe how we think about sponsorships, athlete empowerment, and league economics in women's sports. The secret $1 billion deal unveiled. It began with silence, not a press release, not a teaser, not even a subtle "coming soon" from Nike's social team, just silence. And yet, something had shifted, something big. In the weeks following Sophie Cunningham's viral "Hot Girls Eat Arby's" moment, the energy around the WNBA was different. It wasn't just the memes or the fast food collaborations. It was the undercurrent, a quiet tension building behind the scenes. Those paying close attention noticed it first. Retail insiders, agency assistants, marketing interns, they saw the small things. Nike pulling WNBA jerseys from certain outlets, strange booking patterns for player appearances, and a spike in design submissions for athlete-specific merchandise that hadn't even been announced. It wasn't loud, it wasn't obvious, but it was coordinated. Too coordinated to be coincidence. And then the whispers began. First, they circled quietly among sports journalists, off-the-record text messages from people who'd never usually talk. Then came the Reddit post, a throwaway account, no profile picture, no karma, just a title. $1 billion Nike deal incoming. Not just for one player, it's a collective. The post vanished within hours, deleted, shadow banned, like it had never been there. But it had. And for those who read it, everything suddenly made sense. Back in Los Angeles, something was unfolding beneath the radar. At a secluded boutique hotel in West Hollywood, a group of WNBA players arrived in unmarked SUVs. No logos, no photographers. Their agents arrived separately. One by one, they entered through side doors. There was no red carpet, no WNBA signage. But inside, the conference rooms had been transformed. Nike branding everywhere. Swooshes on the walls, blackout glass. Armed security outside every door. Inside, a presentation unlike any the players had seen. It wasn't just about shoes, it was about ownership. Nike executives, flanked by brand strategists and digital architects, presented a vision. Not for a line of sneakers, not even for individual contracts, but for a new era, one where the top WNBA players weren't just endorsers. They were stakeholders. The plan had been years in the making, quiet, strategic, and designed to explode at exactly the right moment. That moment was now. Caitlin Clark's deal had been the smokescreen. When reports emerged that Nike had signed the Indiana Fever rookie to a record-breaking contract, the public focused on her alone. The media celebrated the rumored numbers, 8 figures, signature shoes, and the works. Here comes the shocking twist. It dominated headlines. But behind that story, Nike had already locked in over a dozen WNBA players under a completely different structure, one not based on shoe sales, but on influence, performance, and cultural impact. They called it the Collective. Nike created a $1 billion investment fund to be distributed over 5 years. But instead of standard contracts, each participating athlete would receive a personalized structure based on 4 pillars: brand, equity, stock, options in WNBA/Nike Ventures, media rights, streaming appearances, docuseries, and training content, revenue share from merchandise drops, team collabs, and international campaigns, and performance-based tiers adjusted annually. Caitlin Clark? She was Tier 1, of course. So was Aja Wilson, Sabrina Ionescu, Breanna Stewart. Sophie Cunningham's name raised eyebrows, not because of her stat line, not even because of her transfer to Indiana, but because of her impact. After the Arby's shirt moment, her Instagram following had nearly doubled. Merchandise sites reported a 700% spike in WNBA fan merch sales just from memes inspired by her one appearance. Arby's reported their most successful digital ad performance of the year. Nike noticed. They moved her into Tier 1 before her new contract with Indiana had even been finalized. As the collective grew, the silence held. Players were briefed separately. Some were invited into the top tiers. Others were added to what Nike called the Cultural Reserve Pool, a fund specifically designed to elevate rising stars and viral personalities. If a player suddenly caught fire online or triggered a social moment, they'd be fast-tracked for activation. Nike wasn't just sponsoring athletes, it was buying the future of the league. And still, there was no official announcement, no campaign, no press tour, because the strategy was simple. Let the culture tell the story. Let the memes spread. Let the fan theories bloom. Let the leaked screenshots and cryptic IG captions carry the narrative. Because once the billion-dollar story hit the surface, it wouldn't just be a Nike headline. It would be history. But now that history is starting to leak. By late July, WNBA insiders were whispering in back channels. Several athletes were seen at Nike's New York campus. Design files labeled with WNBA x Nike Creator Suite were found on a cloud server indexed in a public domain, and a marketing agency accidentally listed a WNBA influencer tour set for early 2026, fully funded by Nike. The puzzle pieces had fallen into place. What had once been a scattered set of brand deals had revealed itself to be something more. A quiet, deliberate, billion-dollar power move. And yet, the implications went deeper than money. Because now, the balance of power was shifting. For decades, WNBA athletes had fought for visibility, for fair pay, for legitimacy in a world that undervalued their impact. But this changed the rules. Now players had equity in the spotlight. They had leverage over the very media companies that once ignored them. They weren't just talent anymore. They were assets. They weren't just faces on a poster. They were architects of the culture. And with Nike behind them, not just as a sponsor, but as a silent business partner, every shot, every interview, every viral moment became part of something much bigger, something global. The billion had been unveiled, but what happens after the billion? Sophie's role and impact. Sophie Cunningham was never supposed to be the centerpiece of a billion-dollar conversation.
For the first time, it hit a player, and you're never going to guess who the player was. Of course, the player who gets hit by the bright green object is Sophie Cunningham.
But sometimes branding speaks louder than stats. When she stepped into the arena wearing that now iconic "Hot Girls Eat Arby's" shirt, it wasn't just a viral moment. It was a case study. Cunningham had done what even the league's top scorers had struggled to achieve. She created a cultural moment, one that reached beyond sports and landed in fashion, meme culture, and consumer behavior. Nike noticed. In a landscape where athlete visibility drives brand decisions, Cunningham became a real-time example of how non-traditional appeal could drive commerce. While Caitlin Clark moved sneakers, Sophie moved conversations. That distinction may have forced Nike to accelerate internal conversations around public-facing campaigns. She demonstrated the power of the unexpected influencer, someone whose voice resonates in places Nike didn't traditionally dominate. That's not all. Her Arby's collaboration wasn't random, it was a spark. By showing that even fast food branding could move merchandise and energize fans, Cunningham proved that the new WNBA was about more than basketball. It was about storytelling, lifestyle, and authenticity. That value couldn't be measured in stat sheets. So when Nike made its billion-dollar move, insiders now believe Sophie's moment played a role in forcing the rollout forward. She showed them that viral heat could be brand capital, and in the new WNBA, that matters just as much as points per game. However, when word of the billion-dollar Nike deal began to spread, it did not land equally. Some players found out through cryptic posts on social media. Others heard from teammates during practice or through vague agent chatter. There was no official announcement, no player-wide briefing, just whispers. And the silence created tension. Within locker rooms and group chats, questions spread faster than facts. Who was in? Who was out? Why had some players been approached and others ignored? For a league that has long prided itself on unity and transparency, the secrecy hit hard. Several mid-tier players reportedly felt blindsided. They expressed concern over fairness, asking why a few names seemed to control the spotlight, and, now, the money. Some questioned if the league had failed to push back against Nike's selective communication. Others quietly feared what it could mean for already existing pay gaps between elite stars and role players. The Nike deal was historic, but it wasn't perfect. It exposed deeper issues around visibility, valuation, and who gets access to the biggest opportunities. As excitement around the billion-dollar backing grew, so did the need for honest dialogue. Because in the new WNBA economy, silence isn't just a strategy, it's a signal. Nike's billion-dollar move is more than a sponsorship milestone. It could mark the beginning of a fundamental shift in how WNBA players are valued, marketed, and compensated. It doesn't end here. For years, the league has struggled with the gap between talent and exposure. Even top-tier athletes have had to fight for brand campaigns and fair media space. But now, with a global brand like Nike investing directly in athletes, not just in shoes or jerseys, but in their personal brands, the conversation changes. Drastically. This deal may strengthen the hand of players in collective bargaining, especially with the current CBA set to expire in the near future. If Nike and other brands are willing to invest in WNBA stars at this level, players may now have proof that their market value extends well beyond their current salaries. The numbers speak louder than promises.